Hey nerds, we are going to review the third episode of Star Wars The Acolyte, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I am Colin.
I'm David.
We are now at the third episode of Star Wars The Acolyte. The spoiler free logline is that on a mysterious planet, the tragic journey of two sisters begins. David, what are your thoughts about episode 3?
I really enjoyed this episode, especially it tells a backstory of all the characters that we see in the show, with the two sisters, Osha and May, Soul himself, and also the four Jedi that May is trying to kill. Soul, Tobin, Indara,
Kilbaka?
and the Weak Jedi. Yeah. So far, we've seen two Jedi get killed,
Mm-hmm.
and Soul and Kanaka are the last two remaining.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not expect anything until this one shows the backstory. So I'm really, oh, okay, at least we know what's going on and why these characters are who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed it too. I think that it's definitely picked up the pace from the first two episodes. First episode seemed a little bit slower, but this episode, even though there were some slow moments, there are tender moments, there's definitely a lot of action. There's definitely it moved the story along, and it reveals a lot of the motivations behind what May did in the first two episodes. Through this flashback scene, which was set 16 years earlier than from the first two episodes. So overall, I think that there's some new characters that are involved, some motivations as to why this is, and again, like you said, David, why May goes through her Kill Bill phase right now. So there's definitely some questions that did pop up in episode 3 that make me think about some fan theories or even some theories of my own as to what's going on. But overall, I say it's a pretty solid episode and definitely moves the story along in a very positive way. Because having said all that, David, what do you think you're going to give a rating for episode 3?
I would give it a 7, which is a dinner party.
Mm-hmm.
I would go 8, but just that it's still a bit slow and there's a few things frustrating in terms of storytelling, but it's enough to enjoy it though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely have the rating a little bit higher. That would be 8 for Road Trip because for me, I think that the introduction of some of the new characters were really compelling, and also just seeing different parts of the Star Wars universe, and also the motivations of May it fills in a lot of the gaps that were missing from those first two episodes. So that's my rating on it. So, David, any other thoughts before we get into spoiler territory?
Let's dive in.
All right. So, if you like our discussion about the Acolyte and other content like this, please share, subscribe for more. We truly appreciate your support as we try to grow our channel. So, spoilers ahead. Okay. So, let's get right to it with this scene at the beginning where they are in a forest and May and also Osha. There was a lot of controversy online as to these two were played by different actors. And to me, I didn't really, yes, they were different. Whereas the adult version is portrayed by Amanda Stenberg. But I think that what they missed was that they're child actors. They can only work certain hours of the day. So it would be very weird if they had one of these actors portray both characters. And so I think that they missed that part of it where they're like, no, they're not identical. Why couldn't they hire someone identical for it? What were your thoughts about that, David? Because it was a big controversy online regarding this topic.
I'm like wondering what's the big deal because this is the same controversy in the Bad Batch where all the clones were voiced by one guy. Well, a lot of people are saying, why did they bring other voices in there to do other voices? I'm like thinking if there's, but the thing is, these are child actors,
Mm-hmm.
first of all. And second, the story involves the two of them in close proximity, basically. So it's a lot to find twins or exact twins, but at least you have two people who are closely similar that can do the job. I don't see what's the big deal about it? If they can find one person can betray 12 people, great. But the thing is that if it doesn't work out at a technical level, that's gonna be a lot. See why they make such a big deal about it. Say, oh, why they can't find identical twins? It doesn't matter. What matters is it's twins, and what matters is the story behind it.
Yeah, I mean, for me also, yes, did they look different? Sure. But did it really bother me throughout the story? No, not really. Because I looked at the performances, I looked at how they interacted, and sometimes nothing's perfect. So I think that
Mhm.
it's just a lot of grief for no reason, actually. So again, fans sometimes is fickle population here. We also get to see here one of their mothers, Mother Anastasia, portrayed by Jodie Turner Smith, and so she's definitely the more softer of the two mothers. The other mother you will definitely see later on, Coral, and she's definitely the more stricter disciplinarian type. And this is a very nice moment where she was saying, "Do you like some spice? I think spice candy it was." And so again, very sensible.
Spice
Spice
Rice.
rice, yeah. And so very sensible to give them the opportunity to enjoy that snack. And yeah, it's definitely a very good moment here overall. And then here you see the dichotomy between the two. You have Anastasia, who is much more benevolent, whereas Coral is very strict by the book, still loving, but it's very interesting to see again the dynamic between the two parents. We sometimes see parents that are both either very hard or both very soft, and this is part of the whole ascension ceremony because this is where May and Osha uh, is going to be ascending to become these witches. And so, David, you mentioned about how this is related to some of the Star Wars canon that we've already seen so far. Can you shed a little bit more light on that aspect of it?
Yeah, to all of the viewers out there, so far we don't know a direct connection to another group of witches that we've seen so far in Ahsoka and the Clone Wars saga of the Night Sisters. This is a comet of witches, but we're not sure if they're actually the Night Sisters. But they're very similar, especially they too are also connected to the Force in some way, except they call it the thread
Right.
and everything. Because there was a training session, which is around here actually, that they say that the power of one, and then the power of two, and the power of many, which represents the whole thing, which is similar like the Night Sisters. You have one, and you have two, and you have multiple.
Right.
As you mentioned before, Colin, that this is a ceremony where to ascend both May and Osha,
Mm-hmm.
because both mothers conflict about how they should be raised because they're both something uniquely special about them
Mm-hmm. Right.
and things,
Right.
which is, and we saw in the beginning of the episodes where the stricter mother Null found them and walked outside the fortress. Soul happened to be there
Right.
and saw, witnessed what happened, and saw the birth of both sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why the two mothers later on decided that it's time to ascend them right now because they're afraid of what the Jedi would do, which led to
Mm-hmm.
here.
And this
Right.
is the scene where both Osha and May are ascending to be witches. And again, we can see that Osha has doubts, whereas May is definitely by the book, wants to be a witch and vowed to become a witch in the future. And Osha was saying, I do, in a very doubtful type of way, and it's you can see the differences between the two. And even though May is very stubborn to think, oh, we're the same because we look alike, Osha definitely has her own personality, has her own viewpoints about life, and a different worldview. The seeds have already been planted to see how different they are, even though they do love each other. There are some differences, and I think that May is too rigid to understand that Osha is her own person as well. And the other thing that they mentioned was they were in exile. So we don't really know yet as to where they are coming from or where their origin of planet is. So that's something that hasn't been told yet. And we'll see what happens in the next episodes to figure out where they're actually from and whether or not they are related to the Night Sisters in some aspects. And we end up seeing some of the Jedi here that we saw from the first two episodes, the four Jedi that are here. So you have Indara, you have Torben, you have Sol, and also you have Kelnaka as well. Confronting the witches here to say that they cannot be hiding a child here, it's against Republic rules. And Mother Anastasia said, we're not under the Republic's jurisdiction. And so it's very weird as to how they're able to justify certain things and how well they're able to compromise in some ways. Maybe they know something that we don't. I'm not sure, but I thought that this scene they compromised too easily. I'm talking about the witches. And I thought that they would put up more resistance, but maybe they just thought that oh shoot, we just got caught by Jedi, so we can't really do anything about it. And it probably shows the power that the Jedi has throughout the galaxy at this point in time. So it's very interesting that they just back down fairly easily in this situation. And also, when this happened, we it was ordered the witches to reveal who was there, who was being the Osha and May, and Osha then was able to again meet with Soul and see what the lightsaber looks like, and it definitely put a scene in her mind to say, maybe I do want to become a Jedi, and this is the origins of that particular motivation. Whereas again, May does not really want to be a Jedi; she just wants to be a witch. And then they had some discussions as to how they were able to be tested, to whether or not they can become Jedi. And Osha and May were both tested. This is the scene when May was being tested. Osha was having this scene with Kelnaka while Kelnaka was repairing the speeder.
Before that, the sisters were talking to the mothers. The mothers wanted to make them fail if they could tell the truth before they take the test. May tell to the sister, please promise me you lie. Osha is like, why do I have to lie? I want to do this. He says, no, it should be us together. We don't be separated. And then we mention the next scene in which they start the test. When May finished the test, which she succeeded to lie. But in Osha's case, when she was given a test, she lied like the first two, and then there was a hint saying that, and when Soul lied too, saying that's when she said it's a spaceship, it's really a rabbit, some space rabbit.
Right.
And Saul says that's correct. And says, what's the next one? And she said it's a speeder. And said that is also correct. And Ocean's like, that's not it.
It's a mountain, yeah. She's like, no, it's not. And she paused herself. Oh no, he caught me. That was very funny.
Yeah, and that's when that there was a connection between the two, especially Saul explained to her of his story, how he joined the Jedi. This is relatable to any kind of family thing for those who feel out of place or feel there's something different or feel that they're not like any other people they're with. Because Saul explained to Osha that he knows it's been very different amongst his family. And the Jedi came and found him that he's something more than that. And he was given a choice, either come with the Jedi or stay with the family. And then later on, Saul explained to Osha that there's more children like her.
Right.
Either younger than her or born as babies. Unlike the Coven, they believe that they have this thought that the Jedi stole and steal babies, which is not true at all. Back around that time, we don't know the Sith existed yet or hiding. But anyway, we saw the connection between Osha and Saul, and that's when after that interaction, they complete a test. Like
right. Going back to that, it could be interpreted as though they are taking children away, because I did get that sense when they were saying, oh, we're going to go to Coruscant and you're going to meet with other kids like you, but then you have to abandon your family. So there is that part of it that made me feel very uneasy, but they just brushed it aside in a lot of ways. And they didn't really dive into that part of it. And again, Osha is still very young. She's still a kid, even I think 12. Very similar to when Anakin left to go to Coruscant to get trained by the Jedi. So in some ways, I can understand what they were saying, that the Jedi take children away from their families. Definitely can see it from that perspective, and it's not just all glory. Here in this scene, we can tell that May is now encountering Oceans and asks her, "Why did you not lie? I thought we promised each other not to become Jedi, so we just lied to them." And Osha just came back to her and said, "Look, I actually do want to become a Jedi." And May definitely feels very betrayed in this scene. And from here, she hatched a plan to basically burn the whole village down. And it does bring up some questions as to whether or not the Jedi somehow manipulated everything. They may not have started the fire, but they definitely manipulated things. So I can definitely see from another party's perspective that the Jedi are meddling. And should they have been meddling or should they not have been meddling? That's up to debate, but it did force May's hand to start the fire here and to really get into a situation where it ended up basically trying to kill her twin sister here, and we can see that Osha is trying to escape through a window here, and later on finds out that everybody in her village is dead, unfortunately. David, do you have anything to add to this scene as to why May felt what she felt? Do you think that she feel justified to do this?
Yeah, again, we don't know what exactly happened in the details. All we know is that May did start the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe during the time the Jedi came to pick up the children, or Ocean actually, and then happened to saw it. We don't know exactly the full details about it because they were very fast that they showed up. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll find out the real details what happened during the final hours of that coven. But the thing is that Mai doesn't like change,
Right.
obviously. Osha, she doesn't like it, which is what a lot of families nowadays in the real world are feeling. That even though that the parents and families like the way things are, some people want to be different
Mm-hmm.
or doesn't want to do some change. But it's like May giving a tantrum saying that if I don't get the things I want, I just tear it down.
Right.
Which led to in this a little after the scene,
Okay.
no, before this
Yep.
one, when May like found Osha again, and then there's a bridge collapse, and they're trying to help each other. So that May should go with Osha, or Osha go with May.
Mm-hmm.
And then before that, Osha confronted May, saying, "What have you done?" And then May said back to her, saying, "What have you done?"
Mm-hmm.
So it's really the conflict between those two was what caused the fire and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we saw that the bridge collapsed, and both May and Osha fell down.
Mm-hmm.
But Saul happened to be there and caught her in
Right.
time, but there's no one to catch May
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. So, which led to the next scene where Osha was in denial at
Mm-hmm.
first that May is gone.
Mm-hmm.
She's in shock of what happened from the fire and such. But then Saul says, "We did try everything and we did search, but there's nothing left."
Mm-hmm.
So Saul says that we will train you, and then he personally will make sure that he will have her as his Padawan,
Mm-hmm.
everything, because he found there's having to be a bond between these two, which is completely different than the dynamic between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon.
Mm-hmm.
This one is more like a father to daughter kind of thing. It's also a very nice thing to see that how the other Jedi relationships are like
Mm-hmm.
Master Yoda and Luke, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan and Anakin,
Mm-hmm.
and even Anakin with Ahsoka.
Right.
So even Luke with Rey.
Yep.
This is a different kind of relationship, which is very nice to see. But then later on, we find out revealed back at that tree at the beginning of the episode that May did survive.
Right.
And she went to that tree because she knows that's where Osha would run away to.
Mm-hmm.
But she says, Osha, realizing she's gone.
Right.
And that's where we got the episode.
Exactly. And so there's definitely some things that are revealing, but then there's some things that leaves us with more questions. And so before we wrap up, what are your thoughts as to how future episodes are going to turn out?
I have a feeling they gotta give more backstory episodes or at least flashbacks within a present time
Mm-hmm.
episode so we can tell the story of how Osha is doing with her training
Mm-hmm.
and how May is growing up and then which would eventually lead to that Sith Lord that she found later on. And then maybe we'll find answers of why. I have a feeling that Osha was to become ascended to Jedi Knight, but left before that, just like
Right.
Ahsoka. But maybe we'll find out what her reason is. But the thing is that the one thing I'm pissed again, Joey Turner Smith, they made such a big hype of her being in it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Carrie Ann Moss. Maybe we'll see more of her in flashbacks,
Probably. Yeah.
very likely,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe some force ghosts, maybe, or in a vision or something in the present
Mm-hmm.
time. Because they hype up these two big actresses into the show, and then they get killed off,
Yeah.
which is what the heck?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason why, or maybe there's something else later on. I have some theories, but the thing is, this episode answers a lot of questions, as you said earlier, but leaves a lot of questions saying, what's happened next between then and to the
Mm-hmm.
present? Let's see what happens.
Okay. All right. So that's our thoughts on Star Wars The Acolyte, Episode 3. We would like to hear what you have to say about this episode. Please comment down below, share, subscribe for more content like this, and we will see you in the next video. All right. Talk to you soon.